Have you ever woken up one morning, looked at the life you worked so hard to build, and quietly wondered, is this really it? Not because something is wrong, not because you are ungrateful. You have the job, the responsibilities, maybe the partner, the children, the stability you once dreamed about. And yet, something inside you feels strangely disconnected. You wake up on a Saturday morning. The house is quiet. You make coffee and sit down for the first calm moment you've had all week. And suddenly that thought appears. Not loudly, almost like a whisper. Is this really it? You look around your life. The job you work years to build, the responsibilities you carry every day, the roles you play for everyone around you. Nothing is technically wrong, but something feels slightly out of place. Almost as if you follow the plan perfectly, but the destination doesn't feel like home. That moment, when the life you built no longer feels like the life that fits you, is what I call the silent pivot. And if that thought has ever crossed your mind, today's conversation might feel very familiar. Let me ask you something gently. Have you ever experienced a moment like that? A moment where everything looked right from the outside, but something inside you quietly asked for attention. When I look back at my own childhood, something becomes very clear. We were not raised to become happy adults. I don't remember conversations about fulfillment. I don't remember anyone asking questions like, what makes you come alive? What lights you up? What kind of life would actually feel meaningful to you? What kind of environment helps you feel calm and creative? Those questions were simply not part of the conversation. Instead, the conversation sounded more like this: choose something stable, choose something respectable, choose something that will look good from the outside. Success was the focus, and success meant external things: education, career, stability, reputation. Slowly, without realizing it, we learn to measure our life through external markers, grades, titles, salary, status. But fulfillment is not an external marker. Fulfillment is an internal experience. And if no one teaches you how to listen to that internal compass, you can spend decades climbing a ladder that was never leaning against the right wall. You were quietly guided toward a specific path. Study something respectable, right? Find a stable job, build a family. And none of those things are wrong. They are valuable. But there was one question missing from the equation. Is this actually aligned with who you are? And when that question is missing, something interesting happens. You can build a very successful life that still feels strangely empty. Many women I speak with reach a moment where something inside begins to shift. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet moment on a weekend morning. You wake up, the house is quiet, and suddenly a thought appears. Is this really all there is? You begin to realize something subtle. You may have been living someone else's definition of success, and that realization can feel unsettling at first. I remember a moment like this very clearly in my own life. I was in my mid 30s. From the outside, everything looked stable, but inside, I felt deeply out of alignment. I remember realizing something uncomfortable. I had spent years learning how to be responsible, reliable, capable, but I had never really learned how to listen to myself. I knew how to meet expectations, but I didn't know how to recognize alignment. And when life circumstances forced me to slow down and reevaluate everything, I had to start asking questions I had never asked before. What do I actually enjoy? What kind of work feels meaningful to me? What parts of my life give me energy? And which ones quietly drain it? Meeting yourself again can be both liberating and uncomfortable because suddenly the old identity no longer fits. And there is a moment that often appears in this phase of life that many people don't talk about. It's not just confusion, it's grief. Not grief because something terrible happened, but grief for the years you spent living a life that wasn't fully yours. You start looking back and noticing how many decisions were shaped by expectation. What you should study, what kind of job you should have, what a successful life should look like. And suddenly you realize something uncomfortable. You were incredibly capable, you were responsible, you were strong, but you are also disconnected from yourself. And that realization can hurt because you might think, why didn't I see this earlier? Why did it take me so long? But you could not see it earlier because you were busy surviving this stage of life you were in. You were building, you were learning, you were becoming. And in most cases, life only creates the space for deeper awareness later. So if you are standing at that moment right now, feeling like something in your life no longer fits, please hear this. This is not the end of the path. This is the moment where the real path finally begins. And if you think about it, it's not surprising we arrive at these crossroads. Most of us build the architecture of our adult life when we are 19 or 20. And it's like designing a house before you even know how you want to live. You were busy climbing what society often calls the first mountain, the mountain of reputation, achievement, and external success. But now you may be realizing something unexpected. You reach the summit, and the view isn't what you imagined. And that's because there is another mountain waiting, the second mountain. You see, the first mountain is about building identity, education, career, recognition, achievement. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. It builds skills, confidence, and stability. But eventually, many people reach the summit and realize something surprising. The view doesn't feel um, as fulfilling as they expected. And that's when the second mountain begins, the mountain of meaning, contribution, alignment, purpose. Not what looks impressive from the outside, but what feels honest from the inside. And what many people call a midlife crisis is often something much deeper. It's not a breakdown, it's awakening. It is a rupture in the structure of your life that finally allows the truth of who you are to get through. Your system is telling you something important. The life you are living no longer fits the person you have become. And when that realization appears, it can feel tempting to search for another external solution, a new job, a new project, a new goal. But if the deeper alignment isn't there, the pattern will simply repeat. Fulfillment doesn't come from chasing another version of success, it comes from turning inwards. For me, that meant asking, what do I actually enjoy? What gives me energy instead of draining it? And one of the most important tools in this process is somatic awareness. Your body knows long before your mind does. It knows when something feels heavy and when something feels alive. You might feel it as a heaviness when you open your laptop on Monday morning, a strange lack of excitement about projects that once motivated you, a quiet relief when a meeting gets cancelled, or the opposite, a spark of energy when you talk about something new, a sense of curiosity, a feeling of expansion. Those signals are not random, they are information. Your body is constantly showing you the difference between obligation and alignment. And learning to listen to those signals is often where the silent pivot begins. Because reinvention doesn't always look dramatic. Many people imagine reinvention as something radical, quitting the job, moving countries, rebuilding life overnight. But most real reinventions are much quieter. They begin with small decisions, a small shift in how you spend your time, a boundary you begin to honor, a conversation you finally allow yourself to have, a curiosity you give yourself permission to explore, a new direction that begins as a whisper, not a declaration. This is the silent pivot. Life doesn't change overnight, but the direction shifts. And sometimes that shift changes everything. I want to invite you into a small reflection right now. Imagine your life as a wheel with 8 segments: career, relationship, health, personal growth, creativity, finances, environment, and contribution. Usually, one of those areas is quietly asking for attention. Not all of them, just one. Your most pressing opportunity, your MPO, the area that, if improved even slightly, would change the quality of your life the most. Sometimes it's work, sometimes it's rest, sometimes it's honesty in relationship. Your silent pivot often begins exactly there. So take a moment and ask yourself, which area of my life is quietly asking for attention right now? Which part of my life still feel aligned with who I am today, and which parts have I simply outgrown? You don't need to fix everything right now. Just notice, because awareness is where real change begins. And if you find yourself questioning the life you built, please hear this. You're not failing, you're evolving. The person who built your life 10 or 15 years ago did the best they could with the awareness they had then. Now you simply have new awareness. And awareness always invites change, not chaos, not distraction, just alignment. And alignment is where fulfillment begins. Redesigning your life is about allowing your life to evolve with you. Your foundation can stay, but the direction can change. You are not lost. You're waking up. Show empathy to yourself. This uncomfortable moment may actually be the beginning of a much more honest life, built on alignment rather than expectation. Because the woman who built your life years ago made the best decisions she could. But you're not that woman anymore. You have new experiences, new understanding, new clarity about what matters to you. And life will always invite you to redesign yourself as you grow. The silent pivot is not about destroying the life you built. It's about bringing your life into alignment with who you have become. And the bravest step is not a dramatic change. Sometimes it's simply allowing yourself to be honest about what you feel. Because the moment you stop pretending everything is fine, you finally give yourself permission to build a life that actually feels like home. Until the next time, pause, listen inward, and remember, coming home to yourself is not a destination. It's a practice, a conscious decision. Welcome home.